Creation is something that is argued around the world. Some people believe that it happened in 6,000 years. Some people believe that it happened over millions and millions and millions of years. There is no exact answer for this. I mean, there is a truth, but we don't know what that is. There's no way for me to prove to you that the earth was formed 6,000 years ago. There's no way for me to prove to you without a doubt that the earth was formed millions and millions and millions of years ago. Science is flawed, and we don't really know from carbon dating and all of these other ways of measuring how old the earth actually is. But there are still signs of extreme flooding. There are still signs of dinosaurs and these different things that have happened all over the place. So we just have to reconcile and understand that the scripture is the scripture, and we have to read through it. I'm not here to give you an answer on young earth versus old earth. I'm just here to tell you about what happened during the time of creation. So let's get into this episode and talk about Genesis chapter 1. So here is the creation account. Now, of course, we read this last time. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, but here's how he did it. So he split it into 6 days, well, 7 days total, but on the 7th day he rested. But here's what it looks like in a visual form. We'll go through each one of these, but here's the 6 days of creation, and we'll come back to this as a visual aid in just a second. So on verse 3 here, we get the first day. He said, "Then God said, 'Let there be light.' And there was light. And God saw that the light was good. Then he separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day and the darkness night. And evening passed and morning came, marking the first day." So here is the cadence in which this portion of Genesis kind of comes from. We see that God does something, right? He talks about it, and then that is the end of the day, okay? So evening passed, morning came, marking the first day. So we're going to see this kind of rhythm keep on going and going and going. This is a very poetic way of writing, but we're going to read through this and kind of see what the rest of the days were. So if we go back to this visual image, the first day, we see light. That's our first day. The second day, then God said, "Let there be a space between the waters to separate the waters of the heavens from the waters of the earth." And that is what happened. God made this space to separate the waters of the earth from the waters of the heaven. God called the space sky, and evening passed and morning came, marking the second day. So we see that again, that rhythm kind of coming through again. God does something, he talks about it, then we finish that day. If we go back to our visual aid, we see the sky here. Now, a lot of people will call this the atmosphere, or you may have heard the word firmament. This is something that we're not going to get into today. This is Bible 101, not Bible 401. And so we're going to focus on the basics of what's happening here. Basically, you can think of this as the atmosphere, as the sky above our heads, the separation between space and the waters. Obviously, when this was written, a lot of people believe that Moses wrote the first 5 books of the Bible. When this was written, nobody understood space or how it worked or what it was, right? And so there's a lot of different arguments that can be made about this specific section here, but we're just going to focus on what creation is. First day light, second day atmosphere or sky, okay? Then God said, "Let the waters beneath the sky flow together into one place, so dry ground may appear." And that is what happened. God called the dry ground land and the waters seas. And God saw that it was good. So this was the third day here. And of course, back to our visual aid, we see that God created plants and he created the dry land. So the oceans were formed and land appeared in these dry spots, right? Just like we see the world today. Probably not exactly like we see the world today. Maybe it was changed over time with different events that happened, but we can see that God did that there. So if you're liking this video so far and you want to continue to see us making videos like this, then we could really use your help on patreon.com. This is the best way to help support us with $5, $10, $25, or even $50 a month if you really, really want to. But honestly, this is what keeps us going, because sometimes YouTube, well, just doesn't show our videos to people, or it kind of is blocked in the algorithm for whatever reason. So we could really use your help if you want to support us right here on the Snipe Life there. So the next one, then God said, "Let the land sprout with vegetation, every sort of seed-bearing plant, and trees that grow seed-bearing fruits." These seeds will then produce the kinds of plants and trees from which they came, and that is what happened. The land produced vegetation, all sorts of seed-bearing plants, and the trees with seed-bearing fruit, their seed produced plants and trees of the same kind. And God saw that it was good. And evening passed and morning came, marking the third day. All right, now into the fourth day. We're on verse 14. Then God said, "Let lights appear in the sky to separate the day from the night. Let them be signs to mark the seasons, days, and years. Let these lights in the sky shine down on the earth." And that is what happened. God made two great lights, the larger one to govern the day, and the smaller one to govern the night, the sun and the moon. He also made the stars. God set these lights in the sky to light the earth, to govern the day and night, and to separate the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good, and evening passed, and morning came, marking the fourth day. So, the fourth day, we see that God creates stars. He also creates the sun and the moon. Now, it's really interesting in Genesis because God actually makes it very specific that the reason why the stars exist, the reason why we have these things is to help us mark seasons, to help us mark times of the year, to help us mark the day and the night, right? So it's helping us to perceive time, because without the day and the night, how could we possibly accurately perceive time, which is really, really a cool thing to think about. Now, if we continue on, we see, then God said, "Let the waters swarm with fish and other life. Let the skies be filled with birds of every kind." So God created great sea creatures and every living thing that scurries and swarms in the waters, and every sort of bird, each producing offspring of the same kind. And God saw that it was good. Then God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful and multiply. Let the fish fill the seas, and let the birds multiply on the earth." And evening passed, and morning came, marking the fifth day. So on the fifth day, we get sea animals and air animals. So birds of the air and fish and animals of the sea. So we begin to see the earth is filling up. So we've got light, we've got atmosphere, we've got plants and land, we've got stars and sun and moon, and then we've got animals of the water and animals of the air. Now if we continue on, then God said, "Let the earth produce every sort of animal, each producing offspring of the same kind, livestock, small animals that scurry along the ground, and wild animals." And that is what happened. So he's making smaller animals on the land now. God made all sorts of wild animals, livestock, and small animals, each able to produce offspring of the same kind, and God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let us make human beings in our image, to be like us. They will reign over the fish in the sea, the birds in the sky, the livestock, and all the wild animals on the earth, and the small animals that scurry along the ground." So God created human beings in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. Then God blessed them and said, "Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and govern it, reign over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky and all the animals that scurry along the ground." Then God said, "Look, I have given you every seed-bearing plant throughout the earth and all the fruit trees for your food. And I have given every green plant as food for all the wild animals and the birds in the sky and the small animals that scurry along the ground, everything that has life." And that's what happened. Then God looked over everything he made and saw that it was very good. And evening passed and morning came, marking the sixth day. Now, next episode, we're going to talk about Adam, and we're going to talk about the fall of man and how that all happened. There's another account of what happened in creation that we're going to look at that gives us a way more detailed look into Adam, Eve, and understanding that God created Adam very good, that he saw him and he was pleased with what he had made. And so we're going to dive into that next week. But for this week, as a holistic view of creation, we get the 6 days of creation, and then on the 7th day, God rested. This is a massive thing in Jewish culture, as this is where the Sabbath comes from. This is where our weekends come from a lot of the times, right? Why we have those days of rest is because you work for these days and you rest for these days. Rest is a very important part of who God is and how he's created us to be. So, the 6 days of creation. We've got light, we've got sky or atmosphere, we have land and plants, we have the stars, the sun, and the moon. Then we have ocean animals, sea animals, water animals, and birds of the air. And then finally, we have land animals, livestock, all the beasts of the land. We have humans as well on this day. So it's a very important day that we see here. Obviously, day 6, that's when we came into the picture and everything kind of happened from there. So in a nutshell, that is creation. So when you think about creation, remember those 6 days that we go through, and that's kind of where we end up in our foundation here. That's the simplest way I gotta talk through it. If you have any questions, please leave those in the comments below. I'd love to answer anything that you've got to the best of my ability. I can't tell you what Adam's middle name was or how tall he was or anything like that, but I can do my best. So leave your questions down below. I'd love to hear them.